Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. In this session, I will present a paper entitled Eco-Sufism Concept in Syair Nasihat as an alternative to Sustainable Development Goal (SDGs) policy in the environmental sector. Table of content. Number one, introduction. Number two, method. Number three, result and discussion. Number four, conclusion. Introduction. Syair Nasihat is Malay literature work classic born in Bali on 10 April 1857. Characteristic the manuscript Syair Nasihat written in Arabic script and use media as the luang paper and language Malay, Javanese, Arabic, and Dutch. Contain various advice, Sufism, specifically Eco-Sufism. Discussion about Sufism usually revolve around the polemics of Wahdatul Wujud and Wahdatul Syuhud. But this manuscript especially discuss about Eco-Sufism. So, this manuscript as historical and cultural document. Thus, this manuscript as Islamic scholarly and scientific tradition in the archipelago, and harmonization between Sharia and Sufism for the social reconstruction of the people of the archipelago. In this context, Balinese manuscript, some research about Balinese manuscript first Hidayat, and in 2020 tracing the trace of Islam in Bali. Hidayat have been commenting 140 manuscripts in Balinese Muslim village. And then Mashhad, Balinese Muslim finding back the lost harmony. Mashhad described the beginning of Islam coming to Bali during the Majapahit era led by Hayamuro. And then Henry Saberloa, manuscript in Bali. Hungary have been inventory of 5,018 and 10 manuscripts stored in 7 Balinese institutions. And then Pihot, use of language in Balinese manuscript as Sanskrit or Javanese, Central Java, and Balinese. And Zoetmulder, tradition sustainability. In Bali, activity is reading, copying, and updating religious books, both Hindu and Buddhist, always used until now. Method. The first qualitative method, and then text editing method, use critical edition method, and text study method, use a semiotic. Result and discussion. The concept of Eco-Sufism in Syair Nasihat text based on this quote, the manner you threw away shall love everyone. You lose again war, that very first enemy. It can be seen that lose is the main enemy, and at the same time, the first enemy to be concrete, that is, without being able to control lose, then no matter how great a human being, he will not have any meaning. But in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and human and other creator, therefore in Islamic teaching, people are often reminded of this problem. In other words, the Sufi construct contained in the stanza quote does not only talk about personal or individual construct, but it also relates to social attribute. The social attribute is important to be raised in the context, especially to explain the power of Sufis as the basis for the formation of new solidarity that function as a driving force for change. The contra of Luz initial move in a persona of individual spirit, but when he has succeeded in controlling the patient, he will be able to contribute positively to other people and his environment. So, Sufism is a process of tahali or emptying or draining, tahali content, and tajali embodiment or implementation. The implementation of Eco-Sufism in life. Based on this quote, Rahman is already nature. We must believe in him. Whoever gets him, the hereafter is happy. It can be seen that the cultivation of the concept of Eco-Sufism can only be done through understanding the concept of life. Without discussing the concept of life, it is difficult to arrive at comprehensive understanding of environmental ethics. This delivery strategy is very important form of cultural capital. The relationship between human as individuals with Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, social or other human, and nature is a triangular relationship that should not be broken. That is human as individual become the center. The perfect relationship triangle is often interpreted in the event of Isra Mi'raj. Isra Mi'raj is spiritual social journey. The most important fruit of this journey are one, spiritual security that can strengthen the faith of the prophet, and two, spiritual social training in the form of prayer ritual. In other words, in other words, the spirit of Isra Mi'raj inspired the occurrence of sociological liquor and ecological liquor, but of which are based on affectionate relationship. Conclusion. Syair Nasihat is an ancient manuscript in Arabic script and the Malay language and contain the teaching of Eco-Sufism. Eco-Sufism is a relatively new Sufi concept that is constructed through the unification of consciousness between environmental consciousness and divine consciousness. The Sufi construct constante in the stanza Syair said quote initial talk about controlling love. This control initially moved in the personal of individual sphere, but when the loose has been successfully controlled, then in fact it will begin to contribute positively, but to other people or social and the environment universe. The implementation of Eco-Sufism is life is put by awareness of being. With this awareness, a servant will be given the ability by Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala to meet Him through the ritual of prayer. Through good and correct prayer activities, it turns off that it will lead the servant to increase his status to the level of Khalifah or representative of Allah on the earth. So, with the status of Khalifah, he will play the deity of divinity, such as creating, caring for maintaining and keeping the universe for the better and useful. Thank you.